The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
San Jose, they're going hunting for Kiefer Sherwood.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, happy Friday, Canucks fans, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggsy, sports reporter with Daily High Vancouver. No Kyle Bowen today. He's sipping on a 40 down in Mexico and hacking darts. Kyle, lay off the darts, man. God damn. Want to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Don't want to condone the dart hacking, but watching Canucks hockey might want to make you feel like hacking a couple. And man, oh man, especially with the Evander Kane debacle, which took a new turn today. We'll get in that in a couple of minutes. We'll also touch on Pettersson versus Matthews. There was one point where Kyle Bowen said, is there a chance you could swap these players for each other? I'll touch on that later on. Get some former Canucks at the Olympics and other news and notes. But let's start with the news surrounding Kiefer Sherwood now. A lot of teams in the NHL should want to pay up to get Kiefer Sherwood. And the Canucks might be wise to get on this sooner rather than later. And I know it feels like we've been talking about Sherwood for forever now. But the closer we get to the trade deadline, the more likely it is that other sellers are going to pop up in this market. And maybe, just maybe, you won't get the return for Kiefer Sherwood that you're looking for, which is that first-round pick or equivalent. Now, it took an interesting wrinkle yesterday when Elliotte Friedman went on the Fan Hockey Show in Toronto and talked about the San Jose Sharks being a suitor for Kiefer Sherwood services. Now, the San Jose Sharks, one of the surprise teams in the NHL this season, one of the best logos in hockey, by the way. Who doesn't love a shark chomping on a stick? But I would let you know that, I would say in better times, orcas hunt sharks, okay? So, but nowadays the orca is trying to crawl back up into his own butthole. But that's just the way it is now in Canuck land. But in terms of the San Jose Sharks potentially going after a guy like Kiefer Sherwood, this is an interesting development for the Vancouver Canucks because while teams out there like, say, the Colorado Avalanche or the Minnesota Wild, even the Dallas Stars, right? If you want to look at that three-headed monster in the Central, all of which are teams that could use Kiefer Sherwood services. All of those teams are a little asset poor. Minnesota's got the most, but of course they spent quite a bit to get Quinn Hughes from the Vancouver Canucks. But the San Jose Sharks, you're talking about one of the most asset-rich organizations in the NHL. Talking about a team too there that is managed by Mike Greer, who actually knows what he's doing. What a concept. An NHL GM who grew up in a family of executives who actually knows what he's doing. The San Jose Sharks have 4 picks in the first 2 rounds of this year's NHL draft. They also got the best pipeline in the NHL. At least that was courtesy of The Athletic earlier this season. And of course, you're not getting any of the big dogs out of San Jose. But can you get maybe their 9th or their 10th best prospect? And would that prospect be, a top 3 prospect on the Vancouver Canucks? Probably. And again, looking at the San Jose Sharks right now, I do wonder if there's a deal where it could be 2 second-round picks for Kiefer Sherwood. Would you take that from the San Jose Sharks? The picks that they hold right now in the second round, they have their own pick and they have Colorado's pick as well. The 2 first rounders, again, if you think you can get a first rounder for Kiefer Sherwood, they hold their own first round pick and they have Edmonton's first round pick as well, which they got in the Jake Wallman trade. So could the San Jose Sharks, who again are holding down the first wild card spot in the Western Conference right now, they got a game in hand as well on a couple of teams chasing them in the Utah Mammoth and the Anaheim Quacks. Could the San Jose Sharks be a team that pays some assets and says, hey, here, look, you guys have performed above expected, or at least the rest of you have at least done good enough while being carried by Macklin Celebrini. Here's a reward. We're going to go get you the biggest dog in the NHL in Kiefer Sherwood. And again, that Sharks team, Matt Celebrini is obviously leading the way with like 105 points at the midway point of the season. I'm joking. I think it's 64, 67 points. But I do know that no other player on the San Jose Sharks has more than 30 points this season. No player on the San Jose Sharks has more than 12 goals this season. Kiefer Sherwood would comfortably slot in as the team's second leading goal scorer behind only Macklin Celebrini. And again, if you want some names in terms of prospects, right? Maybe the San Jose Sharks don't want to give up the first round pick. Again, if a first round pick was on the table for Kiefer Sherwood, we all know it probably would have been done by now. But I got two prospects on the San Jose Sharks who I wonder potentially if San Jose would part within a deal. One is Philip Bystedt. Okay, first round pick way back in 2022. 21 years old right now. We know that Patrick Alvin, he loves them Swedes. And you got another one here in Philip Bystedt, a 6'3", 210 center. Taking a little bit longer to develop, but he's having his best season to date in the AHL with 26 points in 31 games. If you're looking for a player that kind of fits the MO what the Canucks are trying to do, which is target young NHL players instead of get draft picks in the door, I do wonder if Philip Bystedt could be a target for the Vancouver Canucks in a potential Kiefer Sherwood deal. The other name I'll throw out there is Kasper Halttunen. And if you want another big body, Kasper Halttunen would be that guy, 6'3", 205, drafted 36th overall by the San Jose Sharks in the 2023 NHL draft. He's playing his first full season in the AHL, middling numbers right now, but this is the guy who helped the London Knights win a Memorial Cup last season with 15 goals in 17 games on their playoff run there. We know the Vancouver Canucks like their big bodies. We know that they like to target young players. And those are two guys who I think could be a fit if they don't want to just get picks. And you've heard me say this before on this show. I want the Canucks to just go get some goddamn picks, okay? Get some picks, build for the future, reset this thing. But again, I do wonder if their preferred route in a Kiefer Sherwood trade, if they're not getting a first rounder, is to get a prospect or a second round pick with a prospect. I do wonder if either of those guys might be, a second round pick and one of those guys might be too much for the Sharks to give up. But again, this is more reason for the Canucks to act now. Act quickly on the Kiefer Sherwood market. I mean, time is ticking away until the NHL trade deadline. We're less than 2 months away from it. The NHL trade deadline, Friday, March 6th. And of course, you got a 3-week roster freeze in there as well. I believe it's February 4th to 22nd is the roster freeze in the NHL. So less than 2 months to go, but 3 of those weeks, there's a freeze on NHL roster. So the Vancouver Canucks would be wise to get their ass in gear with a Kiefer Sherwood trade. And look, for as much as we've ragged on this management group over the past 12 months, they've shown in their tenure here in Vancouver that they like to act quickly. I think they also have their price for Kiefer Sherwood, and they don't want to budge off of it, but they do like to act quickly. But now's your time to shine. This is your most important trade chip. And hopefully this is what Alvin was too busy dealing with when Jim Rutherford pulled the trigger on the Quinn Hughes deal. Hopefully he was busy talking to every team around the NHL about what he can get for Kiefer, the Reefer Sherwood. Make it Reefer madness across the NHL and sell this guy for as much as you can. Let me know in the comments or wherever you want to interact. Again, link in the Discord below. Talk hockey with the best Canuck fans in the world. Do it on the toilet. It's the most satisfying poop you're ever going to have. If the Canucks strike a deal with the San Jose Sharks, what do you want the return to look like? On the other side, let's get to one of the biggest travesties in Vancouver the past 12 months. And of course, the biggest one is the fact they traded away Quinn Hughes, but the fact that they traded for Evander Kane. An unbelievably short-sighted move. And now apparently they're asking for a return policy from Edmonton? What? You can't make this stuff up. It only happens in Vancouver. And we're going to get to it on the other side here on Locked On Canucks. Before we get back to the show, let's shout out our friends over at Gametime, baby. And man, oh man, hit the like button for this video. You know, trying to buy those Seahawks tickets. I can't afford it, okay? I'm a full-time writer, part-time podcaster, part-time wealth advisor, okay? I try to make ends meet for the family, okay? But those tickets, I'm going to have to take a mortgage out for some of those. But if you want to find the cheapest tickets for the Seattle Seahawks next weekend, or whatever you want to go view, again, a bunch of Canucks home games coming up. If you, for some reason, want to watch this team, prices be dropping, and you can find the lowest prices on Gametime. You can also find World Cup tickets on Gametime, all right? Gametime, the place you want to go if you want to find tickets for any event, from FIFA to the NHL to concerts, comedy, burlesque shows. They got it all, baby. The app, you can get the views from your seat. The fees are included up front. No surprises. No one likes those kind of surprises, okay? And Gametime, they remove all that. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL. That's LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. And guess what? Make sure you go download the Gametime app today. All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks. Your Canucks every day. And man, oh man, trying to build for the future here by trading away Kiefer Sherwood to the San Jose Sharks. And what should the Canucks get in return for Kiefer Sherwood? Let's ask the people, baby. Oh man, let's Oliver Sholnick here. Let's say Sherwood for Celebrini. I think that's fair. I think it's fair. You know, you get hardest working player in the NHL for a teenager. Come on, man. Don't underestimate the 30-year-olds, okay? At least that's what I tell myself when I go to sleep at night. And Japan in the comments saying, trade Kiefer Sherwood to San Jose for a first-round pick and a bowl of shark fin soup. I've never had shark fin soup, but I eat anything, man. So I would definitely try a bowl of shark fin soup. Hopefully when that trade happens, they'll serve some shark fin soup in the Canucks media lounge. It might be the first meal I ever buy from Francesco Aquilini. Speaking of some buying that Francesco Aquilini and the Vancouver Canucks had done, one of the dumbest things they did was decide to take on the contract of Evander Kane back in late June for the low cost of a 4th-round pick. And so far, we are 42 games into the Evander Kane experience here in Vancouver. And he has 6 goals and 20 points in 42 games. On pace for 12 goals over 81 games. That would be by far the lowest goals per game average of his NHL career. Just an absolute joke of a move from an organization that went from looking aggressive to completely unserious. And speaking of unserious, a bit of a bombshell from Rick Dhaliwal today. I will preface that he said he hadn't 100% confirmed the report, but he said today on Donnie and Dolly, Rick Dhaliwal, friend of the show, by the way, he said today on Donnie and Dolly that the Vancouver Canucks, a couple people told him the Vancouver Canucks called the Edmonton Oilers to see if there was a potential reunion for them and Evander Kane. Do I get a laugh track on here, man? Oh my God. They tried to give him back to the Edmonton Oilers.
I'll be damned. Well,
oh my God, man. If that is true, it does show a level of unseriousness, ineptitude from the Vancouver Canucks organization. Look, most fans in this market, I shouldn't say most. It was actually pretty divisive at the time when we did this on Locked On Canucks. But most fans in this market, I believe, were not a fan of that move. Although I will say, we had our episode ripping the deal as soon as it happened. A lot of people in the comments said, you're going to love Evander Kane when he comes in here and he starts hitting people and he's going to protect Elias Pettersson. And he hasn't done shit except take a bunch of shots from the outside to boost the fantasy stat numbers. Again, Evander Kane, one of the league leaders this season in terms of low danger shots. Don't believe me? Go check out the NHL Edge data. This guy loves taking shots from the outside. One of the league leaders this season in that category. And aside from the hilariously sad Canucks news that they're trying to, or that they did apparently, allegedly, reportedly try to trade Evander Kane back to the Edmonton Oilers. It's the fact that they even got this guy in the first place, man. It didn't make much sense at the time. It doesn't make much sense now. And the Vancouver Canucks, honestly, they might be in kind of tough to trade Evander Kane at all. I've said it before, every Dares know, I think they'd be lucky to get a 4th round pick back for him, even if they retain a bit of salary. Maybe you squint hard enough, you find the right team, you retain half of his salary, get a 3rd round pick back. But again, you're talking about a guy that hasn't been good this season. He's had a couple games here, and I will say, like, if you want me to comment Evander Kane, he's been better than he was at the beginning of the season when he was horrid early on and playing all the time. He's had his minutes scaled back. He's looked a little better, but he looks like a bottom 6 floater out there who loves to take shots from the outside. That's just the player Evander Kane is at this point in his career. And the issue is now, you make that move, your team licks donkey butt, and now you're going to have a hard time trading this guy, I think. Again, not only is he not playing well on the ice, but he's got all the off-ice issues that come with it as well. You know, he's pissed off other organizations, other players around the NHL. Are there teams out there that are actually willing to take a flyer on Evander Kane? I want to believe so, but I'm not so sure. I can tell you this, though. I think Evander Kane's going to stay in Vancouver, help the tank, and this is something that's going to be decided at the trade deadline. The Kiefer Sherwood deal, I could see that being done earlier. But Evander Kane to me looks like, you know, when they traded Curtis Lazar away at the deadline for a 4th round pick. That kind of move. But again, this one's more complicated because he's not Curtis Lazar making $1 million. He's making over $5 million US bucks this season. Man, oh man, Evander Kane going back to the Edmonton Oilers. What has happened to the Vancouver Canucks season, man? And hey, look, some of our commenters know that maybe there's a plan with Evander Kane. Oliver Sholnick in the comments saying Kane getting first line minutes also. And again, it has been dialed back here with Evander Kane. And man, oh man, I'm happy you're here, Kyle. Look at this. Hopping on the show. I thought you were sipping on a 40. You're sipping on some tequila instead. Live from Mexico. Over there hacking darts, man. How are the lungs? How are you? And I'm happy to see your face and forget about Evander Kane for a minute. Oh, Kyle Bowen is cutting out, maybe dropping out. I'm going to kick him out while he figures it out. But for those on YouTube, the smiling face of Kyle Bowen. For those on the audio side, some nice elevator music in the background there in Mexico. One thing Kyle Bowen did want me to talk about was Elias Pettersson versus Auston Matthews. So let's cut to break, pick that up on the other side. I also want to rip through some former Canucks at the Olympics. We'll see if Kyle Bowen can, you know, take another shot and hop back on here. We'll be back on the other side here on Locked On Canucks. All right, before we get back to, let's shout out our friends over at FanDuel, baby. The wild card round is here. If you want some escapism from Vancouver Canucks hockey and you like a little pigskin, FanDuel's got you covered because they are officially in playoff mode. Every game during the NFL playoffs, FanDuel's giving customers even more ways to get in on the action. And man, oh man, I don't like to bet on the Green Bay Packers, but goddamn, I want to see that game. The Green Bay Packers versus the Seattle Seahawks at Lumen Field in Seattle. I want to twist Kyle Bowen's nipples when the Seattle Seahawks beat the Green Bay Packers. But to do that, Green Bay's got to get past the Chicago Bears. I think crazy stat was that I think they played each other twice in the playoffs in like 80 years or something like that. They are 1.5 point favorites on the road on FanDuel. If you believe in love and you want to see the Seahawks and the Green Bay Packers and me and Kyle Bowen scrap each other, I think I might be able to get him this time. This guy's slacking off down in Mexico, not working out hard like he usually does. Then make sure you bet on the Packers. Whatever you do, betting-wise, make sure you go check out FanDuel. Again, they got multiple profit boosts right now on the app. Boom, bam. More juice on the bets you already like. Who doesn't like that juice? So go check it out on FanDuel. Make sure you're gambling responsibly. And if you are, visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right. We're back here on Locked On Canucks. Your Canucks every day. And Kyle Bowen wanted me to talk about it, or at least he wanted to entertain the idea. Could Elias Pettersson be traded for Auston Matthews? And I think it's worth bringing up right now with the fact that the Maple Leafs and the Vancouver Canucks will play each other this weekend over in the Scotiabank Center in Toronto. And I got to say, and I said at the time, and I think it makes even less sense now, there's no way this is happening. I get where Kyle was coming from. There was a point about 2 to 3 weeks ago where both guys had the same number of points in the same number of games. But Auston Matthews is a better player than Elias Pettersson. Let's not kid ourselves. And oh, by the way, his contract expires before Elias Pettersson's as well. I appreciate Kyle Bowen for dreaming, baby. Creaming and dreaming over a Pettersson for Matthews swap. Actually, let me know in the comments. Would you even want Matthews in Vancouver? Is that a trade you'd want to see? Pettersson for Matthews? Maybe the Canucks would have to add to that. There's no doubt about it. But is that a trade you'd actually want to see? Pettersson plus for Auston Matthews. Let me know in the comments. But man, oh man, again, both players this season. Matthews has been better, and he's scored, 6 goals in his last 4 games. Now the leading goal scorer in Toronto Maple Leafs history. The interesting thing about these two players is they're completely different players, right? Look at Auston Matthews. This is over the past 3 seasons for the player card. For those on the audio side, basically Auston Matthews, even with the offensive dip this season, the numbers suggesting he was a bit unlucky not to be scoring more goals, not to be putting more pucks in the net. He's now up to 21 goals in 37 games. But not a good defensive player, right? He was especially bad last season, but he hasn't been great this season either. Elias Pettersson, on the other hand, one of the best defensive players in the NHL. The metrics in his favor. Not much happening when Elias Pettersson's on the ice defensively. The issue is not much is happening offensively either. And these guys are 2 of the highest paid players in the NHL. You know what the highest paid players in the NHL are supposed to do? They're supposed to score some goddamn goals. Auston Matthews is doing that. Elias Pettersson is not doing that. There's just no chance that that's happening. Pettersson for Matthews. The Canucks play the Leafs this weekend. Shout out to the former Canucks on the Leafs right now. There was a time where it was the Calgary Canucks. Now it's almost like the Toronto Canucks. What do you got there right now? Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Chris Tanev, Dakota Joshua, one love to the injured former Canucks. Troy Stecher, tearing it up in Edmonton, playing in the top 4 role. Man, oh man, should I buy a Troy Stecher Leafs jersey? No, not a chance. I've said this story before. I used to have a shirt with the Toronto Maple Leafs logo that said worst team ever. I missed that shirt, man. I wore it so much it got faded. All the letters got cracked. I slept in that thing. Unbelievable. So shout out to the former Canucks playing for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Speaking of former Canucks, let's run a little Trevor's trivia and see if you can name all 10 former Canucks playing at the Olympics.
Trevor's trivia starts now.
All right, so we pretty much got all the Olympic rosters now. Minus Italy. Did they announce Italy today? Is Phil Di Giuseppe going to play for Italy? I don't think that's happening, but we now know there's 10 former Canucks at the Olympics. If you're not live, or if you want to think about it for a second, do it. Hit the pause button if you're not listening live here. Former Canucks at the Olympics, obviously USA, you got Quinn Hughes, JT Miller, the surprise omission. I don't know if he was slurping Mike Sullivan off or what, but man, oh man, How do you leave off Jason Robertson for JT Miller, man? I don't get it. Shout out to Captain Bo Horvat, man. That's my captain. Huncho Horvat. Playing for Canada. Happy for that guy. Go check out Kyle's episode from a couple weeks ago when Horvat got named. Over in more European countries, you have Pius Suter in Switzerland. Evander Kane didn't make the Olympics, but Pius Suter did. I don't even know if Evander Kane would make Team Switzerland. Let's be real. I'm missing Pius Suter, man. I miss him, man. Evander Kane is outscoring him with some secondary assists, but Pius Suter by far was the better choice for the Vancouver Canucks. Archer Shilovs. The Artie Party, baby. Going to be a net for Latvia. I'm going to guess he's going to be their starter. Elvis Merzlikins has had a pretty terrible last little bit of the NHL season. Elvis Merzlikins right now with an .877 save percentage. Shilovs hasn't been great either. I know we early on in the season we're talking about, oh, what did the Canucks do? They kept Lankin and they should have kept Shilovs. And yeah, that's true. Especially where they're at right now. You should have kept the young guy. Absolutely. But Shilovs has been pretty bad his last handful of games. First 10 games this season has a .920 save percentage. His last 9 games, he's down to an .835 save percentage. Ouch. And now, all of a sudden, Stuart Skinner, man in the crease there. And looking good for the Pittsburgh Penguins. All right, keep it going here. In Sweden, you got Elias Lindholm, the aforementioned Oliver Ekman-Larsson with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and Jacob Markstrom. And then 2 deep dives. Man, oh man, Nicholas Jensen. Shout out to a Cam Neely, former Canuck of the Week. Shouted him out this week. And finally, the deepest deep dive of them all. Mark Michaelis, former speedster. 15 career NHL games, all with the Vancouver Canucks. And now he's playing for his hometown of Alder Mannheim in Germany. The Canucks, man. Let's wrap up with a couple of your comments here on Locked On Canucks. Oh, man. Let's see. Pupacero Vancouver saying USA chose Miller and Vinny over Adam Fox. Yeah, Adam Fox got left off that team too. Yeah, a lot of weird decisions. But hey, as a Canadian hockey fan, I want to see some happiness. As a Canucks fan, I should say, and a Canadian hockey fan, I want to see some happiness. The Canucks have not been happy. Let's go get gold for Canada at the Olympics. And so I'm kind of happy that the U.S. left some talent on the table. It's going to sting even more knowing the players that they left behind if they do end up beating Canada at the Olympics. Drew Megas in the comments saying, would you flip Petey for Luke Hughes and his terrible contract? Ooh, I would not. You'd have to attach something for sure. I mean, the Hughes thing's done. It's done in Vancouver. Quinn Hughes is gone. He wanted out. You think his brother's going to want to come here now? Not to mention Luke Hughes he's not Quinn Hughes. He's not. Give me Z Buyam on the top pairing. I mean, you'd have to get me to unload a couple other bad contracts in the Vancouver Canucks to take on Luke Hughes. I don't think that's the move for the Vancouver Canucks. The Hughes dream, it's dead. It's done. Jagreat in the comments saying PD for Kent Johnson and Olivier. What matter? Is that Mother Knucker's burner account? Mother Knucker last season for some of our newcomers to the show. Mother Knucker's a solid everydayer here. He wanted us to trade a first-round pick. I think it was a first-round pick in Brock Besser for Matthew Olivier. Besser for Olivier, I'd probably do, though. But PD for Kent Johnson. Look, Kent Johnson is an interesting player because it just hasn't really worked out for him in Columbus this season. The offense hasn't been there. They're a middling team. I think Kent Johnson could use a fresh start. And Vancouver would be an interesting place for it. But as much as people don't like Pettersson in the contract, I know Kent Johnson's younger. Like, Pettersson's a better player than Kent Johnson. You'd really have to insulate Kent Johnson with some good defensive players, some bigger bodies. Whereas Pettersson, for as much as we give him crap, at least he can defend, man. Look at the numbers, man. One of the best defensive players in hockey. At least that's what the numbers are saying. The numbers on the clock are also telling me it's time to get out of here. One more time for the viewers on YouTube. we got to remember this. Kyle Bowen said he's going to eat this foot-long U-shaped hot dog. Hopefully that's what he's training for down in Mexico right now. Whatever you're doing with your Friday or whenever you're listening to this, we appreciate the hell out of you for tuning into Locked On Canucks. If you like what we're doing, hit the goddamn like button. Subscribe to the show. Helps us out a lot on the podcast side. Go follow us. Leave a 5-star review. And I probably won't be around for postgame tomorrow. Got to spend some time with the fam and the wifey. We'll see how things go. But, we got you covered. Coming back on Monday here on Locked On Canucks. I should actually have former NHLer Thomas Hickey on the show on Monday. That's Amazon Prime Monday Night Hockey Between the Benches analyst, pride of Calgary, Alberta. Should be joining the show, so watch out for that. But whenever we see you again, we thank you for listening to Locked On Canucks.
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.